Disclaimer: the information in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not medical advice. Always consult with a qualified healthcare professional before starting or changing any health-related practice. Today we are going to spend some time exploring dynorphin peptides. These fascinating molecules belong to the family of endogenous opioid peptides, meaning that your own body makes them naturally. Dynorphins are derived from the precursor protein called prodynorphin, which is cleaved into several active fragments. These peptides act primarily on kappa opioid receptors, though they may have activity at other receptor sites as well. Let's start by painting a picture of what dynorphins actually are. In simple terms, they are short chains of amino acids designed by evolution to fit perfectly into receptor sites in the brain and spinal cord. Once bound, they can alter perception of pain, regulate emotional tone, and influence reward pathways. Unlike endorphins, which are associated with feelings of euphoria, dynorphins tend to produce effects often described as dysphoric, meaning they can create feelings of unease or sadness. But these effects are not inherently negative because they serve important biological functions. Dynorphin peptides help regulate pain signals. They are part of the body's internal balancing system, making sure pain is neither under-recognized nor exaggerated. In animal studies, dynorphin release in the spinal cord has been shown to dampen certain pain pathways, which can provide protection against overstimulation. At the same time, overactivation of dynorphin systems has been linked to heightened pain sensitivity. This dual role illustrates the delicate balance maintained by peptide signaling. Another fascinating area of dynorphin research is their involvement in stress and mood regulation. When an individual experiences stress, dynorphin levels can increase. This activation of the kappa opioid receptor system may contribute to the negative emotional states that follow stress. Scientists believe this mechanism might have originally evolved as a way to encourage avoidance of harmful or threatening environments. However, in modern life, chronic stress may lead to maladaptive activation of dynorphin systems, potentially contributing to depression, anxiety, or substance use behaviors. Dynorphins also intersect with reward and addiction pathways. Studies in both animals and humans suggest that activation of kappa opioid receptors by dynorphin can counterbalance the dopamine release triggered by addictive substances. In other words, dynorphins act as a braking system on reward, making experiences feel less pleasurable. While this may sound negative, it is actually part of the body's way of preventing overstimulation and maintaining homeostasis. Researchers are currently exploring whether targeting dynorphin systems might offer new therapeutic options for treating addiction. Moving into neuroscience, dynorphins have been shown to play roles in memory and cognition. Evidence suggests that activation of kappa opioid receptors can impair certain types of learning and memory, while blocking these receptors may have the opposite effect. Scientists are studying whether selective modulation of dynorphin activity could be useful in conditions like post-traumatic stress disorder, where dampening traumatic memories might be beneficial, or in neurodegenerative diseases, where enhancing memory could be helpful. There is also growing interest in dynorphins in the field of pain management. Traditional opioid drugs like morphine primarily target mu-opioid receptors, producing strong analgesia but also high risks of tolerance, dependence, and euphoria. Dynorphin peptides, acting on kappa receptors, provide a very different profile. While they may not deliver the same kind of strong euphoric relief, they may help in managing certain kinds of chronic pain, especially neuropathic pain. The challenge is to harness the beneficial effects without triggering the unwanted dysphoric side effects. In recent years, scientists have begun designing synthetic analogs and modulators inspired by dynorphin peptides. These experimental molecules aim to separate the useful pain-relieving or anti-addiction effects from the mood-altering side effects. Some of these compounds are in preclinical testing, while others are moving slowly into clinical exploration. The hope is that one day, kappa receptor modulators derived from dynorphin biology may provide safer alternatives to traditional opioids. Let's take a step back and talk about where dynorphins are located. They are found throughout the brain and spinal cord, including the hypothalamus, hippocampus, amygdala, and spinal dorsal horn. Each location gives them a slightly different role. In the hypothalamus, dynorphins influence hormone regulation and stress response. In the hippocampus, they affect memory formation. In the amygdala, they help regulate emotional responses. In the spinal cord, they modulate pain transmission. This wide distribution explains why dynorphins have such diverse and sometimes contradictory effects. Dynorphins are not just relevant in human biology. They appear in other mammals as well, and their functions seem highly conserved across species. This conservation suggests that dynorphins play critical survival roles. Evolution does not preserve molecules without reason. The fact that dynorphins have been maintained for millions of years points to their importance in balancing reward, stress, and pain systems. One question many listeners may wonder is whether dynorphin peptides are available as supplements or research compounds. Currently, dynorphins themselves are primarily confined to laboratory settings. Because of their strong and sometimes unpleasant psychological effects, they are not widely used outside of research. However, the insights gained from dynorphin biology are fueling the development of targeted drugs, some of which may one day be approved for clinical use. It is also worth considering how dynorphin systems interact with lifestyle factors. Stress, drug exposure, and chronic pain can all alter dynorphin expression. For example, prolonged drug use can upregulate dynorphin activity, contributing to the negative emotional states seen during withdrawal. Chronic stress can do the same, leading to persistent mood disturbances. Understanding these relationships may help in developing interventions that restore balance. Let's shift toward potential therapeutic angles. One promising area is the treatment of depression. While traditional antidepressants target serotonin, norepinephrine, or dopamine systems, new lines of research are investigating whether kappa opioid receptor antagonists, which block dynorphin effects, could rapidly improve mood. Early studies suggest this approach may hold promise, particularly for patients who do not respond well to conventional treatments. Another therapeutic angle is in treating addiction. Because dynorphin activity can reduce the rewarding effects of drugs like cocaine, alcohol, and opioids, researchers are testing whether carefully modulating this system might help reduce relapse. The idea is that by diminishing the exaggerated highs of these substances, patients may find it easier to maintain recovery. Again, the challenge is balancing benefits against side effects. Neurodegeneration is another area under exploration. Dynorphins have been implicated in conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's disease, and multiple sclerosis. In some cases, Excessive dynorphin activity may contribute to neuronal damage. In others, carefully modulated dynorphin activity might protect against excitotoxicity. The complexity here is enormous, and researchers are still unraveling the details. As we look ahead, dynorphin peptides serve as a reminder that biology is not black and white. The same molecule that can contribute to pain and depression may also protect against overstimulation and addiction. Context matters. Location matters. Balance matters. These peptides are neither good nor bad in themselves. They are part of the orchestra of signaling molecules that keep the human body functioning. When you hear about dynorphin in the future, think of it as part of a larger conversation about how our brains maintain equilibrium. Pain, stress, reward, and mood are deeply interconnected, and dynorphin peptides sit at the crossroads of those systems. As science progresses, we may see therapies that harness these peptides or their receptors in ways that are more precise and beneficial than what we have today. Disclaimer: this podcast is for educational purposes only. It is not intended as medical advice. Always speak to a qualified healthcare professional before making decisions about your health. Thanks for listening, keep learning, and stay curious.